Go to the next slide.
Human development, presenter Craig Bolliard. This PowerPoint represents information relevant to early childhood development. Early childhood development, during this period, roughly covering ages 3 to 5, a child's personality, interests, and social orientation begin to come into focus. Parents should keep in mind that personality traits, personality preferences, intellectual and academic ability are not locked in for life during this or any other stage. At this stage, many children will have their first formal learning experiences, including learning to socialize with others without a parent present. That's published by Sussex Publishers, ND, Healthy Development. In these years, particularly birth to 3 provides the lifting for educational achievement, economic productivity, clarity in citizenship, lifelong health, developing strong communities, winning parenting of the next generation. This incredibly important period ensures that children have a strong foundation for future development. The Center on the Developing Child created this guide to early childhood development, ECD, to help parents, caregivers, practitioners, and policymakers. Harvard University, 2022 March, published. Early childhood development, as known emotionally, and attachment. For early childhood attachment represents a very important period of human development. A secure attachment is one in which the child feels confident that their needs will be met in a timely, consistent way. The caregiver is the base for exploration, providing assurance and enabling discovery. Bayer A. Lazzara, 2020, June 26. Attachment is a clinical term used to describe a lasting psychological connectedness between human beings. Bowlby, 1997. In particular, attachment theory highlights the importance of a child's emotional bond with their primary caregivers. Disruption or loss of this bond can affect a child emotionally and psychologically into adulthood and have an impact on their future relationships. Movavid Abi M. and Chems K.A., 2017. This long-term social, cognitive, emotional, and physical development aligns future behavior. Attachment theory focuses on relationships and bonds, particularly long-term between people, including these between parent and child. It is psychological explanation for emotional and relationships between people throughout life. Kendra Cherry, February 22. We're now going to discuss middle childhood development. Middle childhood development. The theory related to the topic of emotional attachments and relationships. First and foremost, we should start with explanations of the categories emotional and physiological attachments involving middle development. Middle childhood attachment is a clinical term used to describe a testing physiological correctedness between human beings. In particular, attachment theory highlights the importance of a child's emotional bond with their primary caregivers. Disruption or loss of this bond can affect a child emotionally, physiologically into adulthood and have an impact on their future relationships. Middle childhood development shows more independence from parents and family, starts to think about the future, understands more about his or her place in the world, pays more attention to friendships and teamwork, wants to be liked and accepted by friends. Children's Neuropsychological Services, 2014. Emotional attachments for middle-aged school stands as an attachment, relationships with parents, as well as emotional competencies, protective factors against stress and other physical, mental, relationship health symptoms of middle-aged school children, a very important period. This period ensures that middle development children have a strong foundation for their future development. We're now going to take up the topic of adolescence. This topic changes and becomes the second most important human factor development scenario. Adolescent development, emotional and attachments for adolescents. The early adolescence state of mind in the Adult Attachment Interview, AAI, is more closely linked to social interactions with peers. The unexpected findings suggest the value of reconceptualizing AAI autonomy security as a marker for the adolescent's capacity for emotional regulation in social interactions. Attachment in adolescent moves to the level of emotion regulation in body, often at different rates, and at a time for healthy exploration of identity and learning independence. It can also be stressful or challenging for teens because of these rapid changes. Adolescent development, physical development. During adolescence, the body usually experiences a growth spurt, which is a time very rapid growth in height and weight. Cognitive development. Adolescence is known for being a time for teens to assert their independence from family and begin to make their own decisions. What is occurring during this time is large numbers of neurons are growing rapidly, and there is an increase in the interconnectedness between neurons, which allow far more complex and sophisticated thinking. Psychosocial development. Abstract reasoning and adolescent rebellion are typical types of adolescent behavior. Although these behaviors can create challenges for youth, their family and others work with them to a better sense. They are a normal part of psychosocial development. Continued. Adolescent development, expanding social circles. The changing adolescents experience in their brain, emotional, and bodies prime them to take on more complex social roles, development roles. Adolescents may assume new roles, such as taking on leadership positions in school, on team or at church, serving as a confidant, or being a romantic partner. Development involves verbal and nonverbal cues, role-playing, and rehearsal strategies as tactics resist peer pressure. One aspect of social development that promotes having a broad social network is the tendency of adolescents to become more aware of how other people feel about them. Overview of early childhood development and this application to current society. Early childhood development. More than 200 million children under the age of 5 in the developing world are at risk of not reaching their full development potential because they suffer from negative consequences of poverty, nutritional deficiency, and inadequate learning opportunities. Healthy human development in the years, particularly birth to 3, provides the building criteria for educational achievement, economic productivity, responsible citizenship, lifelong health, strong communities, and successful parenting of the next generation. So what can we do during this incredibly important period to ensure that children have a strong foundation for future development? Programs catering to the very young are typically operated in a small scale, usually through external environments. Harvard University states, that long-term investment by all segments of society, including the business community, private philanthropy, both faith-based and secular voluntary organizations, professional associations, and governments at all levels, contribute to this scenario. Overview for middle childhood development. Children are assumed to develop new capabilities at this age and are assigned roles and responsibilities in their families and communities. Middle childhood has been differentiated from adolescence cross-culturally, largely by the onset of puberty. Historically, in many cultures, age 6 to 7 was a time which children were absorbed into the world of adults, helping shoulder family responsibilities, fill work roles alongside their elders. In our view, developmental change is contiguous, and any segmentation into the age periods is somewhat arbitrary. Overview for middle childhood development application to current society. Western cultures are not merely a category by default among arbitrarily defined periods of human development. Rather, these years universally mark a distinctive period between major developmental transition points in diverse cultures. The 5 to 7 age period is regarded as the beginning of the age of reason, adolescent development, in particular UNICEF ND. Middle childhood from ages 12 years of age, often known as the forgotten years of development, because they must reach, is focused on early childhood development or adolescent growth. However, this period finds itself very important and must be considered as the age of reason. Overview for adolescent development and application for current society. Healthy communities foster the development of healthy children through the informal support that families provide for each other. When parents are inexperienced in child rearing or overwhelmed by economic insecurity or threatening community conditions, effective parental education and family support programs can help them sustain the kind of growth-promoting experiences that build child competence and shape healthy brain architecture. The Science of Early Childhood Development, MD. There are 1.2 billion adolescents worldwide, the largest cohort ever, and the most educated and urbanized. 90% of the adolescents live in low or middle income countries, and 125 million live in areas affected by armed conflict. Overview of adolescent development and application for current society. The share of Atlanta young adults 18 to 24 who were enrolled and had completed college largely increased over the past decade from 64% in 2010 to 71% in 2019 in the recent years available. According to 2022 Georgia Student Health Survey, fully 50% of high school students in Atlanta public schools reported feeling depressed, sad, or withdrawn at least once in the past 30 days. The same Georgia Student Health Survey also found that 11% of high school students in Atlanta public schools seriously considered attempting suicide after at least once in 12 months. www.unicef.org. Theory related to human development, cultural differences. Include shared knowledge, beliefs, values, and practices concerning what humans in different phases of their lifespan, alike in which children need to learn to function in their society, and how people should lead the way, how their function in society continued. Non-shared environmental differences are experiencing unique involved individuals, experiences that are not shared by other members of the family. They work to make individuals different from each other. Theory rests on the factor that parental involvement from early childhood to adolescent ages relies on many positive behaviors. Studies have shown that this is also true at 1 and 2 parent households. Then in italics, during a child's first few years of life, more than 1 million new neuron connections are formed in the brain every second. These neuronal connections, according to Harvard researchers, are exactly what builds a brain architecture and foundation for later learning, behavior, and health. Commission of Higher Health and Education, NECH 2019. Principles of human development, educational, and economic development. The first is macroeconomic policies for promoting human development. Currently, macro policies tend to restrict progress, often holding back expenditures on social sectors because of austerity policies and generating egalitarian growth and unsatisfactory employment outcomes. 6 priorities for human development. Continued. Income and opportunity can narrow socio-economic differences. One of the ways this can be accomplished is to provide upward mobility by economic development. In today's global compensation, economic development just doesn't happen. Business demands an educated, technologically trained workforce. Each childhood development stands as the ultimate starting place in the process for human development. Human defining development. Many of us are familiar with height and weight charts. If we watch and listen to infants and toddlers, we can't help but wonder how they learn so much so fast, particularly when it comes to language. Development in this human development involves what's going on both physiologically and sociologically. Journal ProQuest, an insight into the stage of development using human studies. On this journal of ProQuest, I'm not going to read the text. This was a search of ProQuest journals in the library. It simply tells us the complex nature of world economics, and I've left this here for a resource. Journal ProQuest Additional, it's part of the resource for this human development PowerPoint, which can be read at convenience. Kaiser University, these are references. Thank you. Questions?